Okay, and welcome. So now we're at the really fun, juicy part of this series. So today we're going to be covering just a real basic introduction of medical astrology, and then we're going to just go through the zodiac signs, which I think is the part that a lot of people are most familiar with. So let's get into it. So the agenda for today, we're going to just define what medical astrology is. We're going to cover some of the basics, including the zodiacal man, the elements, the glyphs, and then the signs. A beautiful quote from Hippocrates: "A physician without a knowledge of astrology has no right to call himself a physician." Again, this is like emphasizing how important medical astrology was to ancient medicine and even not so ancient medicine. So what is medical astrology? The first definition is from Wikipedia. Medical astrology is an ancient applied branch of astrology based mostly on melethesia, that is, the association of various parts of the body, diseases, and drugs with the nature of the sun, moon, planets, and the 12 astrological signs. You may want to go over that and reread it again. Or a really basic definition, medical astrology is an ancient practice that links celestial bodies and their movements and locations to different parts of the human body and health conditions. So we're going to talk about tropical Western astrology, which is what we will be looking at, what I'm teaching. You'll hear about different systems of astrology, sidereal, tropical, Vedic astrology. We are focusing on Western tropical astrology, and I'll explain what that means. So what we're not focusing on is sidereal astrology. This is another Wikipedia definition. While sidereal systems of astrology calculate 12 zodiac signs based on the observable sky, keyword observable sky, and thus account for the apparent backwards motion of fixed stars about 1 degree every 72 years from the perspective of Earth due to Earth's axial precession. So wait. 2,000 years ago, the sky looked different to what it did now. 5,000 years ago, it looked different to what it did now. So people who maybe doubt astrology will say, well, how can it be real? Because what you're looking at now in the sky, what we call Aries season, actually is an Aries season, for example, because due to Earth's precession, which is it's really hard to explain. It's like it changes. It's like on a tilt, and it sort of changes its perspective to the sky. As it says, 1 degree every 72 years. So basically the sky looks different over time. Sidereal systems account for that. So that's a different system which we are not focusing on. We are focusing on tropical systems. So the tropical system always considers 0 degrees of Aries as always coinciding with the March equinox, known as the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere, or autumn with us in the southern hemisphere, and define 12 zodiac signs from this starting point, basing their definitions upon the seasons and not upon the observable sky, wherein the March equinox currently falls in Pisces due to Earth's axial precession. So the tropical system is seasonal. The equinox in March, that is always Aries season. It is no longer based, it's not based on the observable sky. Think of it as seasons. Like autumn is always autumn, and in astrology, Aries season is always the March equinox. So think of it that way. That's what we're working with, the tropical system. March equinox is always the beginning, which is always the beginning of Aries season. So again, you may want to reread this slide and try and get to grips with it. I hope that makes sense to you. But it's also not a big deal. If you don't get it straight away, this is a beginner's course. I'm just giving you extra info. Okay, so this is just a real basic overview. We are going to go over this over and over again. You don't have to remember it all at once, but I just want to lay out to you the zodiac signs, planets, and houses. The signs which you may be more familiar with, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, you can see on the left there, I've listed them. The planets, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. And the houses. So the houses, I'm going to show you an example in a minute. The houses are the 12 segments of the zodiac wheel when we are looking at a chart. They are the houses. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, I've got an example in a second. This is zodiacal man. So as we are doing medical astrology, let's understand the zodiacal man. You can see in this picture, different areas of the body are governed by different zodiac signs. So you see the man's head. There's a little line going off to his right, linking it to the ram, which is Aries. Aries rules the head. You see from his throat, there's a little line going off to the bull. Taurus, the bull, rules the throat, and so on and so forth. Now, this is not a diagram you have to remember, but it's just to give you a visual representation that each sign governs a body area. Also, keep in mind when this system really sort of came to prominence a couple thousand years ago, hundreds of years ago, a lot less was known about the human body. So just keep that in mind as we move through. There are still so many things that obviously have come about in maybe the last century, the last couple decades, that haven't been given astrological associations yet. And people are working on it, and there are some things that are kind of obvious and some things that are less obvious, and some things where there's not a consensus yet. So most of it has an astrological association, but for example, neurotransmitters, they were unknown in the 1600s. So today astrologers are trying to find astrological rulerships by understanding their nature, form, and function. And one good example is dopamine and the potential ruler. Judith Hill has put this forward. I've sort of looked into it, and I think I agree that dopamine may be ruled by the planet Neptune. Just as an example, you don't have to know why, but keeping that in mind. Okay, very basics of medical astrology. Each zodiac sign, so that's your Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, and so on, those signs. Each sign governs a specific body part or area. So for example, Aries rules the head. We'll start with that. The planets govern different aspects of health and impart certain energies into the sign they are in. They are the pathological action within the body part. So, for example, Mars rules inflammation, the immune response, and is activating hot and dry. So the planet brings a certain energy or pathological action into the body part where it's located, and that's different for everyone. The houses represent various areas of the physical experience, such as the physical body, nutritional needs, inherited things. I can't see what I wrote behind that because my head's there, but I'll give you the slides anyway. So there is, and this is where it gets confusing, but if it's too confusing, ignore it. Sometimes there's overlap between planets, houses, and I can't see behind my head. Planets, houses, and rulerships. Don't worry. Zodiac sign is the body part. The planet puts the energy into that body area, and then when you get to the house, it kind of represents an area of the physical experience. Now, under the picture there of Hermes, I've got a little example. So sign, body area, planet is the bodily action or energy, house is the area of physical experience. Here's an example. We have Mars in Scorpio in the 6th house. Now, you don't have to remember this. I'm giving you an example as to how we lay it out and look at it. Mars, who rules inflammation, is in Scorpio, who rules the bowels and reproductive system, in the 6th house, which governs nutrition, daily requirements, daily rituals. So let's interpret that. A person who requires attention to their bowels, Scorpio, and needs to watch out for inflammation, Mars, of that area, should daily, which is 6th house things, should daily, on the daily, focus on a diet that supports bowel health to reduce inflammation. If you don't get it yet, don't worry. This is something we're going to go over and over. Bringing all the facets of astrology together is kind of difficult. There's so many layers to it, and you kind of just got to quickly sandwich it together. But what I'm trying to explain there, give an example of, is we know Mars is inflammatory. It is war. It is aggressive. It is the red planet. Anything red, it's inflammation, yeah? So Mars, which is inflammation in Scorpio, which is the bowels. Mars in Scorpio, probably some sort of inflammatory process in the bowels. And remember, we are looking at birth charts. So this would be a constitutional predisposition. And then you bring in the house, and that adds another layer of interpretation. So in the 6th house of nutrition and daily requirements. So by tending to the daily requirements, we can either cause the inflammation in the bowels or counter it. Don't worry, we'll keep moving through it. I want to show you a visual example of a chart. So now if you want to start bringing up charts, making your own charts, looking at charts, and you just want to do it for free, I use the free stuff at the moment. Astro.com, I think, is the best website for a free chart generator. You make an account, you can save all the charts that you make, and they also do, you know, different kinds of charts if you want to get real technical, transits and so on, which we're not looking at all. But you know, as you develop as an astrologer, medical astrologer, it's a great free system that allows you to do a lot. So astro.com, you can see in the picture. So this is a chart in front of us. It's a chart of a very famous person, which we'll look at later at the end when we do case studies. I'm not going to tell you who it is. I just wanted to show you what it looks like and where to look for things. So you can see the circles divided up like a pizza, even though slices aren't quite even. And you can see in the center there, we've got the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 going anti-clockwise. These are the houses. The first house there on the left, the second, the third and fourth at the bottom, the fifth, sixth and seventh on the right, and so on. They are the houses. On the outer wheel, we can see the colorful symbols. We'll cover that in a second. That represents the zodiac signs. Sorry, I just went blank. They are the zodiac signs. So you can see they don't line up with the houses, and we'll discuss that later. But they are the signs on the outside, and you can see they're even color-coded: red for fire, green for earth, yellow for air, blue for water. And on the inside of that, you see all those black little symbols just on the inside of the outer wheel. They are all the planets, celestial bodies, including some things that are not planets, which we'll discuss. But you can see, starting at the very left, you've got what looks like a, you can see where it says AC, you've got a little symbol there, and it kind of looks like a triton, like a fork with 3 prongs. So that's Neptune. And then we go down to the bottom of the chart. You can see a moon, a crescent moon, so that's the moon. Keep coming around. The next one is Chiron. It kind of looks like a key, and so on and so forth. So those are the glyphs for the planets and celestial bodies. And again, don't worry if you don't get it all at once. I'll give you these slides for your download, and you can look at it again, but we will keep looking at charts and become more and more familiar. I don't expect you to get it all at once. It is a lot. I am throwing so much into this in so little time. It is something you have to go over and over. But just so you have a visual familiarity with what a chart looks like. So I really do suggest that you jump onto astro.com and perhaps just get your own chart up. That's a great start. Like, look at your own chart and just just get familiar with it. You don't even have to interpret it, but just be able to look at it and know where the signs are, where the planets are, where the houses are. So learn the glyphs as well. I've got an image here. This is taken from Wikipedia. The glyphs are what we call the symbols that represent the planets and the signs. Some of them will make a lot of sense to you when you look at them, and some of them won't. So let's have a look at the zodiac signs. Aries, that shape, that first one, think of it, that's ram horns, right? Taurus, it looks like a bull with bull horns. Gemini is the twins. So we've got, you know, like two pillars, the twins. Cancer, the crab. Some of them are more obvious. Leo, the lion. Virgo, it looks like an M. I always think of the Virgin Mary, the M. We've got Libra. Scorpio, I always think of Scorpio kind of like a bit devilish. We've got the little point on the tail. Sagittarius, it looks like the archer's arrow. Capricorn, it's kind of hard to see in the glyph, but some people have made it into the goatfish. You can sort of see the picture of the goatfish. Aquarius is an air sign, but it's represented by the water carrier. And Pisces, the two fish. And then we move over to the planets, celestial bodies. The sun, center of the universe. It's got a dot with a circle around it. The sun is the center of our solar system, so that's a good way to remember that. The moon looks like a moon. Mercury, it looks like a little person with Hermes or Mercury's, the wings of his helmet. Venus, the female sign. Mars, the male sign. Jupiter, Saturn. Uranus kind of looks like a satellite antenna, which is really appropriate for Uranus. Neptune looks like a Triton. And Pluto, there's a few symbols, but you know, often looks like a P for Pluto. It'll just take time and familiarity, but you will learn them. So the elements. So before we delve into each zodiac sign, let's first explore how energetic patterns express themselves through the 4 elemental energies. This offers insights into vitality patterns and tendencies. So 2 ways this is done. First of all, most people know their sun sign, also known as star sign, but it's your sun sign. I'm an Aries, or I'm a Virgo, I'm a Capricorn. If you know the element, so Aries, fire sign, Virgo, earth, Capricorn, earth, you know, whatever sign you are, you can see I've written them there. Just knowing that about a person can give you an insight just a bit into their vitality. Without knowing Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, what they mean, if you just know they're a fire sign, there's going to be a particular tendency. If you know they're just an air sign, you don't have to know Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius very well. You just know they have air sign tendencies, and so on. So just knowing someone's star sign gives you an idea, particularly into their vitality. The other thing is, you could, when you look at a chart, if you see so many of their planets, most of their planets are in water signs, and not many planets are in anything else. They're very water heavy then, and we'll go through this later. So then you can look at, well, what's the water energy like? This person's going to have a predominance of water energy. Or, you know, if they have a lot of planets in an air sign, so, well, they're going to have a predominantly air energy. So it is nice to know the 4 elements as a generalized approach to understanding someone, or even just their star sign. So fire energy, it's bright, it's hot, it can burn, it can be vigorous, overactive, energetic. It's a dry heat, and quite often correlates with a choleric humor. So if you remember when we talked about the humors, so that's the nature of fire. Like, there's so much energy, there's heat, there's vitality, there's a bit of creativity, but the counter is that they can overdo it, burn themselves out, You know, like a fire needs to be controlled, and if it's not, it turns into a raging bushfire and destroys everything. That is the nature of a fire sign. So it can be wonderful or it can be completely destructive. Air, air, you know, diffuses quickly. It goes far and it dissipates. It has a dynamic, changeable energy. It dissipates quickly. It's quick, communicative, and warm. It is associated with the sanguine humor. So again, yeah, air signs, they're usually very chatty, very communicative, very changeable in their nature. But yeah, they can also run out of energy because they can spread themselves so far, like air. Water signs, the energy is slower. And just like if you put the sun's rays, when you see them when you're underwater, they're not as strong, it's stifled, so things slow down here. The vital force can be lesser when there's a lot of water. Water by nature is slower, it is far more reactive to emotions, so anyone with a predominance of water placements will be more, their physical health will be more responsive to their emotional state. And of course, water is cool, damp, moist, phlegmatic, the phlegmatic humor. And earth, energy slowly penetrates the densest matter, which is earth. It is less vigorous but has a really long-lasting, resilient quality. Energy is dispersed slowly and over a long time. So that's where we get that steady, grounded, resilient earth energy. If you find someone with a lot of earth in their chart, you may notice this. It is cool and dry and would correspond to the melancholic humor. And now we're going to start on the zodiac signs. So I'm just going to give you a general nature of each of the zodiac signs. In the medical astrology sense, that is. So each sign governs a body area very generally and then a bit more specifically. So for example, Aries rules the head. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It is the baby of the zodiac. It has a very me first, charging forward, number one attitude, right? So of course it rules the head because the head is the first part of the body. It also rules the upper jaw, the motor nerves of the head, optic nerves, pituitary gland, and adrenals. The nature of Aries, it is the ram that charges forward. It is dynamic, me first, energetic, prone to accidents, prone to overdoing things and moving fast. It is the head and spirit that leads the body forward. So with Aries, we're generally thinking head, energy, adrenals. The modality, and we will talk about these later, there are three modalities: cardinal, fixed, and mutable. So these are like energetic patterns. A cardinal energy is a me first, pioneer, let's get started energy. So that's Aries. Modality is cardinal, element is fire, it's a fire sign, and its ruling planet is Mars. Beautiful Taurus, ruling the neck, upper shoulders, so kind of like the traps, the lower jaw, ears, cervical vertebrae, blood vessels of the neck, and thyroid. So everything just from that lower jaw to the upper shoulder there, the traps, that is the bull. And when you think of a bull is really sturdy and usually has a very thick neck and shoulders. You know, it's very built up here. So the bull is steady and grounded, and its energy emphasizes stability and sensory enjoyment. They have strong resistance to illness and often live the most long enduring lives. However, they are prone to toxin buildup. So anything that's happening in Taurus, we want to look at thyroid, neck, upper shoulders, but also they are prone to toxin buildup, and I'll explain that in a second. So of the modalities, they are fixed. That means they don't like to change much. They are steady. Their ruling element is Earth. The planet is Venus. So knowing Venus, we'll go into this a bit more. Venus loves beauty, decadence, good food, being surrounded by lovely things, romance, just everything that is beautiful is Venus. So even though Taurus is this steady, grounded earth sign, that Venusian influence, because Venus is its ruler, means that Taurians, and I see this over and over again, not all of them, but most of them love rich, decadent, delicious food. And so they can sometimes be quite prone to eating a lot of it because they love that sensory enjoyment. However, when we overeat things that are perhaps a bit too rich or a bit too, have too many treats, we can get a toxic buildup in us because we're either gaining weight, we're not having bowel movements, whatever it is. And we go into that more through the lessons. But that is very Taurian. And a lot of Taurians are just, they love something yummy. They tend to be a little bit hedonistic. And I say that with love because Taurians are some of my favorite people. But that's that Venusian influence. But otherwise, they are most steady, grounded, resilient people. But yeah, looking at that region with Taurus, that neck, upper shoulders, lower jaw. Gemini rules the arms, hands, speech, hearing, nervous system, so communication functions, lungs, trachea, bronchial tubes, so it's any system that funnels air, and the scapula. So we've gone from the head down to the neck, and now we're at Gemini, and we're kind of looking at the arms, hands, lungs, respiratory. Because Gemini represents mental agility, so that's the nervous system, adaptability, because it's an air sign. It's characterized by a restless, ever-changing energy like the wind. Gemini is dynamic and fluctuating, which at its worst can become scattered and inconsistent. So this is where the nervous system part comes in for Gemini. Like they love to do like 10 things at once, and they flip from here to there, and then after a while they're like, oh, I'm actually exhausted. And they are a bit more prone to respiratory infections and colds. So that's that, the systems that funnel air. And, they're chatty, so they like to like move their hands, gesticulate a bit. And there's that nervous system rulership with some other things because of their need for communication. But Gemini also, has that, it's not just communication verbally, even though that's a big part of it in hearing. It's also like nerve communication and other communications that go on in the body. Modality, these are mutable, which explains that fluctuating energy. The element, so they're an air sign ruled by the planet Mercury. So ruling planets are not the same. They don't have the exact same energy as their zodiac sign that they rule over. However, in medical astrology, they are very similar. So we will go through the planets, but know that Mercury also governs communication, the nervous system. So in regular astrology, they will say sign is not the same as planet. In medical astrology, it's not, but it kind of is. You'll see as we go along. Gemini. Okay, Cancer. Body parts, the stomach, the receptacle of nourishment, our hollow round organs, so breasts, uterus, vertebral discs, salivary glands and mucous membranes, which are both moist, supportive of receiving nourishment and food. So nourishment is a big thing about Cancer, emotional and food like nourishment. Cancer is characterized by heightened sensitivity and emotional resonance. It is the energy of enfolding and containment, nurturing with a soft inside. Cancerians are their physical health, particularly their stomach, will be very affected by their emotional state. So they are actually a cardinal sign, just like Aries. We think of Cancer, it's ruled by the moon, so think of the mother's nature. The mother can be soft and nurturing and nourishing and looking after of the babies, but then if you mess with her, Cancer, the crab, they'll get you, with their little pincers. They will hurt you. So there is that energy in Cancer where if you cross them, they have the potential to be vindictive. And I don't say that in a bad way, but that is the nature of the crab. The crab goes, lives by the sea. It's very quiet. It does its own things. They're very soft inside, but if you mess with it, it'll pinch you. Yeah, it's ruled by the moon. And its element is water. So really focusing on the stomach with Cancer and the nourishment that it needs, and that emotional tie where its emotions will really affect its physical health. Leo the lion, body parts, the spine, so the back, the spine, but especially the thoracic spine, the heart, aorta, myelin sheath. So really focusing on the thoracic spine, the spine in general, and the heart. Its nature is royalty, the king, Leo, the king of the jungle. Leo shines with radiance, giving exceptional vitality and enormous energy. Confident and generous, this sign embodies an intense concentration of energy. They tend to run hot and become dehydrated. So with Leo, this is the home of the sun. The sun is the center of the solar system. It is the brightest thing in our sky. The sun is also very hot. So Leo is very warm. And that's where its tendency towards dehydration comes from. Leos, they love attention, they love adoration, and actually their physical health will be affected if their heart is hurt in any way, whether it's a broken heart or they don't get enough adoration. That will actually physically impact a Leo. And again, they have this amazing vitality. They just want to do things. They're not as hyperactive as say in Aries, which is also the other fire sign, but they do have a tendency to burn themselves out again as another fire sign. They run hot. They don't know how to say no. They want to do things, and a Leo can then burn itself out. But it would really affect for them their cardiovascular. So Leos are, if you're a Leo sign, or if you have a lot of Leo placements, Leo, because it rules the heart, there is that focus on the heart's health, the cardiovascular system, but more so the heart than the vasculature, which is Aquarius. So always looking at the heart's energy and the heart's function with Leo. Also the spine, I've known some Leos to have scoliosis and stuff if their Leo placement is affected badly. So it's, the real heart and spine there. It is a fixed sign, so Leo is, can be quite stubborn and stuck in its ways and not willing to change. Leos can be some of the hardest people to, as a practitioner, to get them to change certain things. Element fire, they're a fire sign, and they're ruled by the sun. Virgo, beautiful Virgo. So Virgo rules the pancreas, liver, small intestine, solar plexus, spleen, and has some immune system rulership along with Pisces. So real focus on the small intestines with Virgo. Virgo embodies the energy of discernment and discrimination, so as a personality characteristic, but as a function of the small intestines and the digestive system. So once we've left the stomach, which is Cancerian, we get into the intestines, and then we have the process of separating out our foods, digesting and absorbing the nutrients we want, and then getting rid of what we don't want in the way of feces. Virgo is diligent, hardworking, practical, analytical, perfectionistic. So Virgos are often really, really health conscious, or if you have a lot of Virgo placements, there is there's a focus on being health conscious and a little bit restless. So they are an earth sign, so there is that practical, resilient steadiness, but its ruling planet is Mercury and it is mutable, so it's almost like the most airy of earth signs. With Virgo, we're always looking at the small intestines. Issues that are very Virgo in nature are small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, dysbiosis, any sort of digestive in the intestines, any sort of issue there, that's very Virgo in nature. And of course, when our gut health is out, it affects our immune system. So that's where that immune system rulership with Pisces comes in. Libra. Libra rules kidneys, lumbar region, acid alkaline balance, and hormonal balance. So all homeostatic mechanisms, all mechanisms that enable balance within the body. Fallopian tubes, ureters, and ovaries with Venus as well. Yeah, you can see hormones, acid alkaline balance. These are all homeostatic mechanisms keeping the body in balance, because Libra is ruled by the scales, so it's always about keeping things in balance. I haven't mentioned it here, but Libra also has some part rulership with Aries over the adrenals. Because Libra and Aries are on opposite sides of the zodiac wheel. So anything that's sitting opposite, they kind of talk to each other a bit. So the nature of Libra, they seek to balance everything. It strives for harmony, balance, visual aesthetics, beautiful aesthetics, and fairness. So quite often with Libra, we are checking the kidneys, bit of bladder function, fallopian tubes, ureters, hormones as well, because of the hormonal balance. It is a cardinal sign again, so it has that initiating energy. It is an air sign though as well. That's why Libran people, even though it's not medical astrology, tend to be very diplomatic, liked by a lot of people, can be people pleasers because they're constantly trying to keep balance and harmony, and that's how Libra functions in the body. Ruling planet is Venus. Scorpio. So Scorpio rules primarily the colon, but rectum, bladder, sweat glands, so anything that excretes. So sweat glands, snot that comes out, earwax that comes out, poop, just everything that comes out of the body. Genitals, the nose, because it has that reptilian brain survival association. Prostate, sacrum, pelvis, coccyx. So that whole right at the bottom of your torso, the genitals, the pelvis, that is all Scorpio. Its nature, its focus is on survival and purification. They are the key functions of Scorpio. Scorpio is really intense and magnetic, deriving a lot of strength from emotional and intuitive energy. So again, a water sign where the emotional aspects or emotions in general will really affect them. They are prone to issues around releasing and letting go of emotions and or toxins. So all the purification functions, like I said, like sweating, for example, that's scorpionic. They are magnetic in nature as people, but they're also magnetic in the sense that they will take on people's energy or illnesses. And yet, a lot of their health will come from emotional and intuitive energy, because they're a water sign. Prone to issues of like holding on to emotions and toxins, because their function is purification and excretion. If they're not functioning well, they will not purify, they will not excrete, and that's where the scorpionic issues come in. They are a fixed sign, so that means they are not willing to change as easily. They can be more stubborn, stuck in their ways, which makes sense. If someone wants to hold on to emotions or hold on to toxins, it's easier to do as a fixed sign. Element is water, so that's why they are emotionally very resonant. They are ruled by, in modern astrology, we say Pluto, but before the outer planets, Pluto, Uranus, Neptune were discovered, its traditional ruler was Mars. When we think of Mars, it's like inflammatory, aggressive, warlike, which is interesting. And then we've got Pluto being the modern ruler, which is a bit more mysterious, a bit more so far out there and you don't even notice it. So we'll look into the planets later, but yeah, it's got those two rulers, and it's up to you. you can sort of look at both if you're doing astrology. Traditional medical astrologers would have looked at the traditional planet ruler only, but I think using the modern planets as well works just fine. Capricorn. Capricorn rules everything that provides structure within the body. So the skin, bones, ligaments, joints, cartilage, tendons, hair, nails, teeth, anything that's sort of hard and stops us from being a sack of jelly. And the knee joints, especially, are under Capricorn's rulership. Parathyroid gland, because there's calcium homeostasis, and calcium makes bones, or makes our bones hard, and part rulership with the gallbladder. Capricorn generally, like a Capricorn sun, will have poor vitality in childhood, improving to robust hardiness with age. And that's because, like I said, the nature of Capricorn is everything that gives structure. A lot of these structures don't harden and become strong until you get a bit older. So Capricorn has that robustness that comes with age. Capricorn energy is characterized by structure and endurance. So we think of the goat, even though Capricorn technically is the sea goat, so it's half goat, half fish. Some people will just say it's a goat. And the mountain goat, they just about climb vertically to get to the top of the mountain every time, and they do it. So that's that diligence and dedication and endurance, but also the diligence, dedication that is required to maintain health. So any Capricorn placements, a lot of, if you have a lot of Capricorn energy, there's going to be hard work involved in maintaining health, especially with diet. That's just another Capricorn thing. It's an earth sign. They just need a mineral-rich diet to maintain all these structural components. It is a cardinal sign again, so it does have that go-getter energy, that initiating energy. An earth sign, which brings that resilience in the structure. That's why it's got that association with physical structure. And its ruling planet is Saturn. And if you know anything about Saturn, Saturn can be a disciplinarian. It rewards hard work. It's known as a malefic, which sounds evil and bad, but it just means it requires a lot of effort to please in a way. Okay, and Aquarius. I'm sorry if you can't see me. I've disappeared, but I hope you can still hear me. Aquarius rules the calves, lower legs, and ankles, circulation and blood oxygenation, nervous system, nerve impulses. So I've said Mercury has a nervous system rulership, and that's the communication between the nerves, whereas Aquarius's nervous system rulership is the impulses of energy that go through the nerves. Aquarius also rules energy levels, mitochondria, energetic systems of the body such as chakras, auras, meridians, and also biorhythms, the hypothalamus. So Aquarius is kind of unusual in that it has a lot to do with the electrical system. I guess, yeah, the nature, the life force can be electric, erratic, coming and going in surges and dips. It fosters a unique and unusual quality, and it's characterized by the desire to progress. One explanation of the Aquarian energy that I was given, which I liked, was how the soul and the spirit fits into the human vessel, if that makes sense. So Aquarius, we're really looking at that part of the autonomic nervous system that moves the blood through the body, right? So when Aquarius has issues, there can be lots of like swelling of, say, the lower ankles because circulation isn't good, or the venous circulation isn't good. Oxygenation of the blood. So Aquarius quite often has an association with anemia. Mitochondria, so the energy levels, energy systems of the body. So there's a lot to do with anything that energizes the body, whether it's the nervous system, whether it's oxygen in the blood, whether it's energetic systems like your aura, meridian, chakras, and so on. It is a fixed sign, so again, that means it's a little bit stubborn and less willing to change in its nature. It is an air sign, so even though we always see the water bearer, remember it is an air sign, and its ruling planet traditionally was Saturn, but the modern ruler is Uranus. And if you remember the glyph that we looked at, it looked like a satellite, which I think is perfect for Aquarius because the satellite is receiving signal, and that's very much so the nature of Aquarius with its association with energy systems. And last sign, Pisces. Pisces, being the last sign, rules the feet. We've gone from the head down the body to the feet. It rules the immune system, lymphatic system, fluids of the body, the pineal gland, spinal canal, cerebrospinal fluids, diffusion of fluids and gases across membranes. So it is very fluid. Everything's sort of fluid. Anything that can cross membranes, that is Pisces. It is dreamy, it has poor boundaries. Pisces has a sensitive, delicate nature and sensitive health. They are super easily disturbed by emotional distress, whereas the other water signs, they are also, or they have a deep resonance with their emotions. Pisces are even more prone to being disturbed by emotional distress. And when you think of fish, a school of fish in the water, if you just put your hand in the water, they will scatter. If their waters are disturbed, they will disappear. There is a real big focus on the immune system with Pisces as well as Virgo, but it really is a very Piscean thing. The lymphatic system, which is with the immune system, the fluids of the body, the pineal gland, because Pisces is very dreamy, very intuitive, very psychic by nature. Cerebrospinal fluids, all these waters of the body, and anything that can cross membranes, you know, that's very Piscean in function. You know, the I'm trying to think, like the gastrointestinal, like the intestines, how some nutrients can, what's the word, perfuse, like across membranes. So that is extremely Piscean in nature. It is a mutable sign, so it's very changeable in nature. Element, obviously, water. Its traditional planetary ruler is Jupiter. However, its modern ruler is Neptune, and as we go through the planets, you'll understand this, but Neptune is nebulous, it has no boundaries. Where does it start? Where does it end? It's delusional and illusional, and that, you know, that really is the nature of Pisces. So with, you know, quite often with Pisces, we see these like health issues where there's been a breakdown of boundary, whether it's an energetic boundary or leaky gut, where there's a boundary breakdown in the gut. So any issues of boundaries and autoimmune illness where the body doesn't have the correct boundaries in the sense that it starts attacking itself, that's quite Piscean as well. All right, so that is the end. Again, this is another lesson where you're probably going to want to like go over those slides. You might want to print out all of those. You might want to make notes on top of it. I do have some handouts, so make sure that when you've watched this, you go to below the, you know, the viewer where you're looking at this lesson, and I'll have some links to some handouts you can download. They'll be really valuable. I use them myself. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson, and please email me any questions.